So let's go. One of my favorite villains from Batman is Ra's al Ghul, especially because his stories always bring some different elements to Batman mythos, a kind of James Bond style of adventure. That's why I think he was chosen to be the main villain of Batman Begins from Christopher Nolan, because Christopher Nolan admits that he is a fanatic for James Bond, and I think Ra's al Ghul's portrayal in that movie really is very much inspired by James Bond villains from the movie franchise. And even in the animation Batman the Animated Series with the two-parter episode The Demon's Quest that features Ra's al Ghul is a very James Bond style of adventure, and it's definitely two of my favorite episodes of that series. So I decided to take a look at Batman lore in the comics to see some stories with Ra's al Ghul, and since James Gunn's DCU will have Batman the Brave and the Bold as the first Batman movie in this new universe, and that movie will probably feature Ra's al Ghul and Talia al Ghul, and the whole League of Assassins storyline, especially because we're gonna have Rob and Damian Wayne in the movie, I decided to take a look at Batman's lore in the comics to find some Ra's al Ghul stories, and probably the most famous ones come from what they call the Demon Trilogy, with 3 stories that have Ra's al Ghul and the whole storyline of the League of Assassins taking prominent role in them. Those 3 stories are called Son of the Demon, Bride of the Demon, and Birth of the Demon. And we're gonna talk about the first story of this trilogy today, called The Son of the Demon, by the writer Mike W. Barr. And first of all, I have to say I love these covers here. They're just fantastic. Probably one of the things that also attracted me to make my first video covering Batman comics. This one, I love the Ra's al Ghul and Talia al Ghul in the back as well. It's just perfection in terms of drawing. But anyway, the story starts with this vision of Ra's al Ghul borning again from the Lazarus pit, probably, and walking naked in the desert. It's very cool, this first shot of the comic. Then we go to a terrorist attack that is happening in Gotham City. The terrorists are taking some hostages inside a warehouse, and the police is surrounding the place with Commissioner Gordon leading the men and dealing with the negotiations. So as usual, Batman arrives at the scene and we see these quick frames of him attacking the terrorists one by one. A funny fact is that the terrorists mark some of the hostages' skin with the letter Q in their faces. So anyway, Batman breaks into the place and we have this very cool scene of him attacking the terrorists in the smoke, using the shadows to his favor as usual. So Batman kinda diffuses the situation, although there's always a trigger-happy goon that steals, holds a hostage and threats Batman. Then he fires his machine gun at Batman and shoots some barrels with some toxic chemicals. And Batman gets out of the way and the chemicals obviously bath the guy completely, and he ends up getting what he deserves in the worst way possible, as you can see. Next, Batman hears a chopper that is arriving on top of the warehouse to pick up the terrorists, so he grapples into the chopper and is taken by it, flying over the city. And this scene reminds me a lot of Batman Forever, in the first scene of the movie where Batman also grapples into Two-Face's chopper and is taken flying with it. Maybe that movie took some references from this scene right here, who knows. So Batman breaks into the chopper, attacks the pilots, and the chopper ends up crashing and exploding, just similar to what happens in Batman Forever. And exactly like that movie, Batman jumps out of the chopper in time and he dives into the water to save himself. And after the situation is diffused, Batman flies away from the scene, leaving the interrogation process to Gordon. He lands into a alleyway where he starts to stagger around because he is very hurt because of the crash that happened. Plus he has this flashback remembering the death of his parents. Not only that, but he also remembers the day he decided to be Batman, with this very cool shot of a huge bat, almost like a monster, like Man-Bat, his own villain, that enters the window of the mansion and tells him that you're gonna be my son. This creature literally tells him that he's going to be his father and Bruce is going to be his son. So the theme of this comic is around this whole idea of fathers and sons or fathers and daughters. We will talk more about this later. So Batman faints in the alley and we see a silhouette of a woman there, and later is revealed that that is Talia Al Ghul that took him home to the Batcave with Alfred taking care of his injuries. And Bruce gets confused for what's the reason for Talia to be there, and she says she has a lot of interest in the terrorist gang that he handled earlier, and especially their leader. And being the stubborn man that Batman is, he doesn't care too much about taking care of himself and just puts the bat suit again to go after Gordon. And later that night in Gordon's office, Batman, Talia, and Gordon talk about what they discovered about the whole terrorist attack. And Gordon reveals that they were after some chemicals called ploviculture, which is a chemical that can be used in the science of rainmaking. That's right, the ability to make rain. So Batman goes after a scientist in Gotham City that can be a specialist in this ploviculture chemical, a guy named Dr. Blaine. And when he arrives at the research lab of this man, he finds him dead. He also finds a flask of pills in his hand, which can indicate that the man took the pills and ended his own life, but using his detective skills, Batman knows that the man was killed recently, so he was actually murdered by someone that set the whole scene to make it look like the doctor took his own life. Some of the staff of the research lab arrives at the scene, including the son of the doctor. One of them truly believes that Dr. Blaine took his own life. He's saying that the research lab was facing many financial problems and all these things. But anyway, after that, Batman is taken by Talia in a plane to the lair of her father, Ra's al Ghul. That is a lair inside a mountain in the snow. Is a very James Bond villain lair style of place. Batman arrives at the place showing he's a boss because one of the guys tries to scare him with a machine gun, and Batman quickly beats the guy up. Next, they find out that Ra's al Ghul is still alive, probably because Batman and Ra's already met and faced each other before. I don't exactly recollect the story that this happened before this comic, but they are old enemies. In fact, Ra's al Ghul considers Batman to be his greatest foe. So Batman gets surprised that Ra's al Ghul is alive. Then all of them have a dinner where Batman faces Ra's, accusing him of having murdered Dr. Blaine, which Ra's is quick to deny. Then the name Cain, Cain with Q, arrives at the conversation. And this was a name that before in the Gordon's office, the commissioner mentioned his story that he was a terrorist assassin that was probably the leader of the terrorist gang that attacked the warehouse that night. And Ra's al Ghul explains that this guy named Cain was an old pupil of his, and when Cain was a child, Ra's al Ghul sent his parents in a mission to Hiroshima in the exact time that the atomic bomb exploded there. So Cain's parents were killed in that, and Cain blamed Ra's al Ghul for that. Later, when Ra's raised Cain, which was not called Cain before that, he actually gave himself this name because of the Bible, right? The first murderer of the Bible, Cain, who killed his brother Abel. So Cain became this very cruel man and a very greedy one that wanted to have full access to the Lazarus Pit, the pit that brings resurrection to Ra's al Ghul. During one night while Cain was trying to access one of the Lazarus Pits, the wife of Ra's al Ghul saw him during the act and tried to prevent him from doing it. Then Cain killed Ra's al Ghul's wife, which the little Talia, that was a kid at the time, watched the whole scene. So now Cain and Ra's al Ghul are great enemies. Both want to take revenge on one another. and Talia came to Gotham because she was after him and caused the ball to roll in this whole plot. So since Ra's and Batman know that Cain's intentions are not good, Ra's proposes an alliance to the Bat, which Batman is forced to accept. But not only that, Ra's also offers the hand of his daughter to him, which makes Ra's al Ghul probably the best father-in-law on Earth. Later that night, Bruce and Talia have a night together in their room, which you know what I mean, and they consume their love, something that will play a role later in the plot. Ra's names Batman as his second in command with his army. We have a very interesting scene where Batman and Ra's play chess while discussing their plans to stop Cain. They get to a stalemate in the game, which Ra's thinks is quite fitting for their alliance, but Batman says that he's playing to win. And later, Batman, Talia, and some of the men from Ra's al Ghul are going on a mission to stop the launching of a rocket that will put a satellite in space responsible for causing the rain-making effect, using all those chemicals that were stolen. And since Cain has an agreement with the local army to control this satellite in secret, Batman's mission is to prevent it from being launched. So him and Talia break into the launching space. Batman sets some explosives in the rocket while Talia fights some goons. We have one of the men from Ra's al Ghul being captured during the invasion. And this is when Cain appears and both him and Batman have a confrontation. It is established that Cain is a very strong man. And during this fight, Cain is able to defuse the explosives that Batman set up in the rocket. So the rocket is launched and Batman fails the mission. Not only that, but Cain also escapes. Then Batman and Talia return to Ra's al Ghul's lair. And during their arrival, Talia informs the Batman that she is pregnant with his son. Look, what a miracle. Next, him and Talia and Ra's al Ghul all have a party in the lair. I love the fact that Batman never removes his mask even during the party. By the way, I also love the way Ra's al Ghul dresses like a king of the King Arthur times. And Batman gets pretty happy with the idea of being a father. He even starts to think about a name, whether it will be a boy or a girl. If it is a boy, name him Thomas, or a girl, name her Martha. Meanwhile, Cain tortures one of the men of Ra's al Ghul that was captured during the evasion of the rocket launching, and he is able to force the man to speak, "Where is Ra's al Ghul?" So he kills the man in a very cruel and supernatural way, basically squashing the man's head. But not only that, before he also marked the man's face with the Q of his name, which is something that the terrorist gang did earlier in the comics, so it's all connected. And in the next day, Batman and Talia are walking around Ra's al Ghul's lair, talking about their happiness for being parents. Batman gives her a golden necklace, which I'm not sure if it is the same one from Martha Wayne, probably, but is not mentioned. Anyway, what they don't know is that Cain's men are coming on helicopters right outside, about to break into the place, so the whole door of the lair is exploded. Cain's men enter the place, there is a lot of mayhem and destruction, and during this invasion, Talia notices something she doesn't like about Batman, that he will defend her at any cost, even at the cost of his own life, to protect her and his baby. Not only that, but instead of attacking Cain's men back, his worry is only concerning her, which makes her conclude that the Batman got completely distracted by this whole being a father idea. So the invasion continues, and Ra's al Ghul sets a trap to kill most of the Cain's men, including Cain himself. They both have a quick exchange through a monitor, which distracts Cain while Ra's al Ghul sets some explosives in the lair. The whole thing explodes and Cain almost dies, almost, because he ends up escaping and running away in his helicopter back to his hideout. Batman takes Talia to examination, which she assures him that she's okay, but he once again displays a lot of concern towards her instead of the cause of getting Cain, which displeases Talia very much. Meanwhile, Cain is taking control of the satellite and he is using it to cause a conflict between nations. He uses the satellite to cause a reign in Russia, and the president of Russia calls the president of the United States, since the satellite is American, and starts to threaten him because he considers this an act of war, even though the American president denies any responsibility in that. So once again, this is a very James Bond villain kind of plot, with the villain planning to start a war between nations. By the way, earlier in the plot, which I forgot to mention, the doctor revealed that Cain is about to die. He is sick. He will have only 2 months of life. And this is one of the reasons he also wants to destroy the world, because he wants to leave this legacy to Earth before he dies. So Raz, Batman, and Talia are planning now an attack against Cain, but Batman refuses to go into the mission with Raz now, because the hero says that now his only concern is to protect Talia and his baby, to protect his family. And again, Talia sees this as weakness. And listening to a conversation between Raz and Batman there, she suspiciously passes out right there, saying that she's feeling awful and that something is happening to her. So she is quickly rushed into the hospital for examination again. And later she tells Batman that now she lost their baby, which destroys Batman's heart. He gets taken by sadness and revenge because now he wants to go into the mission against Cain. And when Ra's al Ghul's men start to leave the lair for the mission, he enters the chopper to join them. So now it's time for revenge, and again, in a very James Bond style, I cannot say that enough in this comic, they parachute into the Cain's lair and break into the place. They find Cain inside, and Batman attacks him with all his fury, even though Cain wants to kill Ra's al Ghul, but Batman starts a fight with him. During that, Ra's al Ghul tries to defuse the satellite and give it the control back to the United States on the computers. So Batman is able to beat Cain, while Ra's al Ghul is able to give the control back to United States, which the country is quick to destroy the satellite right away. Ra's al Ghul and Cain have a final conversation, which Cain is able to attack Raz by surprise and almost kill him right there. Although Batman kicks Cain to defend Raz, and Cain ends up being electrocuted by some cables around. So Cain dies right there, which is quite strange because we can consider that this was a Batman kill, even though it's meant to look like an accident that he was electrocuted. But anyway, so with the world saved, Batman returns to Raz's lair and has a final conversation with Talia. The man is destroyed inside, so they say goodbye to each other. Batman returns to Gotham and goes back into the laboratory that the Dr. Blaine worked. And he reveals to the staff that the man who worked there that said that Dr. Blaine took his own life because of the financial problems of the place was actually the one who was giving information to Cain regarding the chemicals used in the rainmaking. So the son of Dr. Blaine beats the guy up. Batman stops the son and says that the punishment of the man will be to live with this guilt. Gordon and him have a final exchange. Gordon tells him that he looks very distressed, and Batman says yes. Gordon offers himself to have a talk if he wants, but Batman is quickly to deny it, as usual, because he's a loner and he just leaves the place. We have this very depressing scene with Batman at the top of the building without his mask, just crying in the rain for the fact that he was so close to be a father and have a family. And then we have the final frames of the story that shows that, spoilers if you don't want to know, stop the video right now. But in the end of the story, it's revealed that Talia's baby was not dead. In fact, he is alive and he was given to adoption. So the family that will take care of the baby says that he will be the happiest baby ever, because that's exactly what Bruce said before in the story as well. A very bittersweet ending, but one that is very fitting to the story. And since this is an 87 comics, At the time, the character Damian Wayne didn't exist, and it was not the intention of the writers to create an origin story for the son of the Batman. But later in the DC Comics, it was considered a canon, this story, Son of the Demon, and now this baby is confirmed to be Damian Wayne, connecting the stories. Although I believe there are some changes because I don't think the baby was adopted in Damian Wayne's story. I believe Talia al Ghul actually raised him in the League of Assassins. And this is it. This is the Son of the Demon, a great story, and I loved for having this James Bond style of adventure. And what about you? What did you think? Would you like for me to cover other comics here in the channel? Comment below. Also comment if you like this story and what other stories of Batman in this style you also like. Please leave a like in the video if you liked this one. Also subscribe to the channel for more Bat content and DC content in the future. See you in the next Bat video and bye bye.